Hello, I'm Dennis. I draw it so you don't have to. Cosgrove Hall was a Manchester-based production studio in England, started in 1969. It used to produce a massive portion of the children's television shows of the day. Sadly, in 2009, the studio was closed down, leaving a great number of disappointed fans and a legacy that few studios can rival. Founded by Brian Cosgrove and Mark Hall, Cosgrove Hall was an independent company that produced a large number of children's animations which have endured in popularity to this day, one of the most popular of which we will be looking at this episode. Back in the 1960s, Patrick McGoohan starred in an espionage spy show called Dangermouse. It was very popular at the time and gave rise to a few interesting events in television. One of which was the kinda-sorta spin-off show The Prisoner. The other was an animated parody called Dangermouse. Dangermouse began in 1981 and ran all the way until 1992. Voiced by actors like David Jason, Terry Scott and Edward Kelsey, it presented the main character as a white mouse with an eye patch who worked along with his sidekick Penfold, a timid hamster, who worked as the world's greatest secret agent for the British government under a chinchilla by the name of Colonel K. Yes, that's a chinchilla, not a walrus. His main nemesis was the villainous Baron Silas Greenback, a large green toad who is such a Bond villain parody he even has a white, fuzzy pet to stroke, Nero, a caterpillar who, according to the writers, was secretly the real mastermind behind Greenback's plans. Along with his main henchman Stiletto, an Italian stereotype crow, this evil trio provided the majority of the problems Dangermouse had to overcome. Despite this trio of characters playing the main foil to the White Wonder, there were a few others throughout the show's history, some more recognisable than others. Dr. Augustus P. Crumhorn III, aside from having a long rambling name, was a mad scientist wolf who never really got shown in the American broadcasts, a rival villain who constantly bickered with Greenback. There was also Count Duckula, a vampire duck obsessed with breaking into showbiz, but having a serious lack of any talent, usually resorted to threats and torture to get his own way. Duckula has a slightly interesting arc which will be explained in the future, but for now let's focus on his more evil persona. One of the reasons I like this show so much is down to David Jason. The guy has a fantastic range of voices which he pulls off here. He's Dangermouse, the snarky announcer and several other bit parts. That's not to say the rest of the cast are slouches. The late Terry Scott is enjoyable as Penfold and Edward Kelsey has a great history of voiceover and acting work. Case in point.
Let's give them a little company.
Now, I may seem to be going on a lot about the voice artists in this cartoon rather than, say, the art style or anything, but there's a reason for that. Let's take a look at what Dangermouse would have been like without these particular actors. This is Dangermouse as voiced by David Jason.
Now you get some shut-eye, Penfold, and maybe the weather will be better in the morning.
And now this is Dangermouse in the pilot.
The program to destroy the West Wing to its left found the East Wing where the West Wing was, while the West Wing was on the east to its right and so was left. Right?
However, Dangermouse's voice is nothing compared to the pain that is Penfold's.
Anyway, we'd like an early call for me on Derek Mouse, Mouse, Danger Mouse, but oh.
Rather than review any one particular episode, since the narrative was usually short and more than a little non sequitur, I'm going to be looking at a cross-section of the overall show itself. First of all, the stories. The writing on Dangermouse is weird, very weird. I sometimes wonder if the writers at Cosgrove Hall ever have any herbal medication while working on these plots. For example, the pilot told the story of Greenback raiding a bagpipe farm, kidnapping all the cute little bagpipes to fuel a huge sonic cannon. Or how about the one where Duckula and Greenback team up to retrieve the Mystic Stick, which when thrown will uncover the favourite chew toy of Cerberus, and thus give them control of all dogs everywhere. And FYI, these are the more sane plots in the show's history, so be prepared to leave your reason at the door for this show. It's a fun and enjoyable trip all the same though. Now we move on to the presentation, the art of the show. This is where I get to gush a little as an artist and say how much I love the backgrounds on this show. Many of the environmental shots are really well painted pieces of graphic art, and the weirder imagery from the show is really inspired. Believe it or not, some of these backdrops are so good that still to this day I wish my work was something like this. That's not to say they don't slip into lazier photo montage every now and then. Whether it's time restraints or a lack of interest in the production, I just happen to enjoy a well-rendered background over a lazy blurry splash of colour. On to the actual character designs, and for the most part there's no real problems here. The art style is simple and makes sense. You can tell for the most part what creatures the characters are supposed to be, and it fits in well with the expectations of, most anthropomorphic cartoon shows. However, I will say that some of the characters are best viewed from a distance, as some of the close-ups and the expression shots can seem a little off. Yes, it's a hang-up of all animation, but it just seems more noticeable when you compare it to the usually lush environmental work. And lastly, we touch on the music. While the show does dip into royalty-free classical music a lot, a common method of keeping costs down, the original music that's included with the show is well done. I love Greenback's slow, creepy theme. It has this subtle way of building suspense rather than banging the viewer on the head with dramatic villain music. Also, one of the most enjoyable parts of the show is the opening theme song. The Dangermouse theme is an enjoyable, fast-paced adventure anthem, one which I personally have a hard time not humming along to every time I hear it. And that was Dangermouse. If you liked what you saw, you can check out a few choice episodes on YouTube and other channels, or you can simply buy the 25-year box set from Amazon. A little bit pricey, but totally worth it if you ask me. Thanks for watching guys, and if you have any questions or comments, you can ask them either below the video or over at my website at dennisillustration.co.uk.
He's the greatest, he's fantastic, wherever there is danger he'll be there.